Hey
You
yo,
know,
what's good?
shit, I'm good, my guy. Your end.
How did you manage to cut your hair, bro?
Listen, bruh, you gotta make plans. You gotta. I'm not with the effort. I tried it. I'm the one.
Hey
Yeah,
man, I'm
boy,
str-
you going
Hey
for that one?
bro, I'm a soul man right now. I'm struggling, bro. I need the hair plug right now. I've never
Hey,
had
but
hair this long.
get a barber and concierge, bruh. Let him come to you and then take care of business fast.
Too risky, bro. I ain't playing that game. I ain't allowing anyone inside my house right
I, you do it that, man. It
now.
is what it is. Otherwise, you could.
Easy just. Thanks for this, bro. I actually haven't done this.
It's fire. We did it with the heavy 2 days ago.
Yeah.
Shit is real.
Okay.
This one because I've been wanting to have this conversation. So then I was wrecking my brain. I'm like, who do we hit up? Who do we hit up? I'm like, I know just the guy. And
Yeah.
when I've been because I'm mad that I didn't get an invite to the last conversation you had on your platforms. I'm like, I
Oh,
yes
my
it.
podcast. Oh,
Yeah, so
yeah, yeah, yeah.
he's got a debt to pay. Let me hit him up and let's see if we can do this thing. So appreciate you coming through for it, man.
Nah,
It's a good one. It's a
thanks
real
for
one.
this. I'm ready for convo, bro. I got my tea ready. I'm up.
I don't drink tea, but I'm close.
So what do you want to discuss? Let's get on to it. I'm
Let me
ready.
again, yeah, because you're the guy. Well, first of all, I've been thinking, with the whole the virus thing, this thing hitting. I think one of the million things it's shown us is that everything that we thought was safe isn't safe, right? Everything we thought we knew insofar as business models and how to trade and how to survive in this ecosystem, none of it is real. Like it's all been flipped on its head. So now we're in this space where everybody's kind of panicking, especially our industry, the entertainment industry, whether you look at TV, whether you look at music. Now people can't go on about their daily lives. We can't generate income. So now it was like, okay, shit. So now that everything's been tossed out the window, what do we do? Because either this thing blows over and we come out of lockdown to a new economy, or this is our new reality, in which case we need to find out how to move around this new space and the landscape, bro.
Yeah.
So I was like, shit. So how do we then shift? And I suppose we've been doing it, we've been trying for a while, but now how do we move the focus to into building our own shit in our own models from ground up? Because now more than ever, we need us. Like we're seeing that we can't really depend on whether we want to say government or corporate or private sector, whatever. The people as a collective, private citizens, we need us. We need our own power base so that we can sustain ourselves. Yeah? So I was
Mm.
like, all right, shit, let's, because you're doing great with, CGN. You general manager now. I'm not gonna name names, but
Nah,
it,
you
it,
can plug me, bro. I need all the plug right now. Mag is coming out, by
you
the
know,
way, next week. Plug,
there's
plug.
Destiny Careers is coming through. So I was like, okay, you one of the right people because we're with you in this whole thing of building from ground up. So it's like, okay, how do we shift the focus and normalizing just building our own power base, using our own platforms and our own strategies like that.
Look, you're right, bro. Like this time has made all of us introspect, whether you like it or not, on how we're moving. I mean, it's very difficult for me right now. I'm not gonna lie.
That's
Um,
right. Yeah.
I'm going through the most, Joe. Like,
All up.
not only mentally, physically too. It's taxing.
Yeah.
Even financially. I think a lot of us are going through a lot financially, and it got me to realize actually yesterday that having a source of income now is going to be like a privilege starting from now
Yeah.
moving onwards. It has always been in South Africa because of our inequality, but now more so it's going to be like very evident that just even having a source of income or any job, in fact a career, if you have a
Yeah.
career, you're going to be blessed because there's a difference between a job and a career.
In a
So
career. Yeah.
if you are in a career space, like you're going to be one of those people that are blessed, so to say. So
Yeah.
um, I think, you're right in saying that this has changed the way we're going to do things moving forward. even if COVID-19 is extinct, I just
Yeah.
think just the way that it shook up everything and it disrupted the status quo, it's going to, it shook also us internally to start evaluating on, complacency. I think most of us
Yeah.
were complacent. I think we need to be
100. Yeah,
honest
yeah.
about that.
We took it for
I was
granted.
complacent. We always talk about, yo, I want to save, I want to save, I want to save. But I think now you like, yo,
Should have
after
been
this
saved
thing, I need to really start saving.
for
So
sure.
I
For
think from a mental perspective, it's going to shift a lot of things from all of us. How we do things, how we approach things. I think more so now, insurance and security are going to be top priorities for everyone.
Yeah.
If there's one thing that you're going to look forward to, especially if you don't have a stable income, you're always going to make sure that you have some kind of an insurance. It might not be like the traditional insurance, but you might want to find different streams of income just to ensure yourself that if this one doesn't work out, or if something like this happens again, I'm
What?
cool.
Yeah. What's going to
And
happen? Yeah.
security, man. I think job security is going to be something that's on the high right now from a priorities list for everyone.
Got you.
So I think you're right in saying that this whole situation kind of is going to shift the mindset, even if COVID-19 is extinct and we don't have to adjust the way we do things physically. But I think from a mental space, there's definitely
Everything's
a shift.
changed.
Everything's
Everything's
changed.
changed, you know. And I
Yeah.
think now it's that time again. This is why this conversation was like heavy on my mind. At the top of it was like, okay, instead of us again this is when I say us, I mean us as the people on the ground, like private citizens, because that's who my faith is in right now.
Mm.
Instead of looking to government, instead of looking to corporate for these outreaches and this assistance, because we have so many projects on the ground that people are trying to push and trying to build. Why don't we start investing in that? Because
And let me tell you something. When it comes to um, the recovery from an economic perspective, it's going to be a mammoth task. You must also bear in
it's going
mind
to
that when we got into COVID-19, our economy was not necessarily the best or at its
wasn't
best. We were in critical stages generally. So now this kind of worsened the situation. I mean, we're looking at a 50% unemployment rate possibly by the end of COVID-19. And that's
yeah,
that's that's not something you get over in a year or even two or even three, by the way.
it's gonna
I
take a
think
while.
realistically speaking, it's going to take us close to 5, even 7 years, depending on the measures too that are
Yeah,
taken. And those measures, they can't be purely dependent on government. I think that's another thing that we need to put in our heads, that this
yeah,
is where patriotism needs to actually be at the forefront. We need to
yeah,
change the way we do things and the way we support each other. We always talk about, having an agenda of, supporting black business, supporting each other as a nation, and whatever the case might be. I think now action needs to start taking
yeah.
place in that regard. There's going to be more value in you supporting that local business now more than ever before, because
Yeah.
there's a direct impact in that. So the recovery
Oh,
phase of this economically is going to be highly dependent on how patriotic we are as a country, and also how we as civilians play our role in aiding government. We can't only bestow that responsibility on the government to say like, yo, come up with the relief fund, and in the same breath we also want to criticize them and what they're doing. There's only so much that they can do as a government,
for
as
sure.
government of the country. But I'm also not saying that we need to take away that responsibility from them. Yes, they have a role and a responsibility to play, but we also have, in fact, I would say our role and responsibility is larger to a certain extent as civilians. And
Absolutely.
then one person might ask, then how do you play that role, Nkox, if you're sitting in a shack and you have no options and you've been unemployed even before COVID-19? You understand? And that's the
Yeah.
reality. We can't
Yeah.
romanticize the situation. Fact of the matter is the inequality in our country is just getting, larger and larger. And as I said, before even getting into COVID-19, we already were in a situation as a country. Now it's worsening. So that means certain social ills are going to be on the rise after this. So now you're going to be
Yeah.
dealing with a situation whereby you're trying to recover financially or economically as a country, but then also you're trying to deal with certain social ills, i.e., crime.
Yeah.
That is definitely, I think, it's going to rise like crazy after this.
Everything is about to get real. It's about to hit the fan, and
Yeah, yeah.
that's
So I
absolutely
think I think it's upon us, the civil society and civil duty within us needs to rise to a certain extent in order for us to expedite the process of recovery. But I think realistically speaking, we need to also be honest with ourselves since we're introspecting, that the worst is yet to come. I'm sorry to say, and it might sound very cynical, but it really
hey,
is going to get very bumpy from here. But we need to channel our energies and our mindsets to say, how do we find opportunities in times of these, um, and another thing that we need to also talk about, and I think is important to mention, is that not all of us are entrepreneurs, hey? And not all of us
no,
want to be entrepreneurs. And I think that's been the nature of discussion right now, with COVID-19, is that a lot of people are saying it's forcing everyone to become an entrepreneur, right? Because now
yeah,
you have to fend for yourself. You can't be reliant on a company because you might get laid off when such things happen, or whatever the case might be. But we also need to stop romanticizing those things. The reality of the matter is not everyone is built to be an entrepreneur. And being an entrepreneur is not easy, and I do believe it's something that is inundated with certain human beings. It
yeah,
comes with
yeah,
certain qualities that people have, and not all of us are built for that, right? So how do we then move as individuals to also fit in the new mold of creating security for ourselves, right?
yeah,
How do I, as an employee who doesn't necessarily have aspirations of being a business owner or an entrepreneur, how do I then move differently moving forward, post COVID-19? Because COVID-19 shook me, because I almost
yeah,
lost my job. I saw a friend of mine got retrenched, whatever the case might be. So then we need to start finding ways in which we also start, doing things and moving
yeah.
financially. You have to check yourself. You'd have to check, are you saving enough? Beyond that, are you getting multiple streams of income? I think we need to start normalizing that. I
Yeah,
know
yeah, true.
in America, multiple streams of income is the status quo. They look at you weird if you have one job.
Yeah,
In America, you find the craziest thing. You find a professor by day, who's lecturing at a university, and by night, the very same professor is cleaning a hotel. And they don't see anything wrong with that. You understand?
yeah.
Because to
Turning
them,
it's
yeah,
actually a
to
good.
them, it's just maximizing on opportunity. I'm like, I'm getting multiple streams of income, so I might as well, because I can do it, why not? Type of
Yeah,
situation. And I think we need to start equipping ourselves in that regard. And I'm very happy, and shameless plug, that the edition that we're going to be dropping for Destiny Careers for the May,
got you.
that's the approach that we're going with, right? We're going with the approach of, finding opportunity in the midst of chaos. With
Got you.
what's going on right now, we still need to be opportunistic in our nature, and that's how we're going to find opportunity.
For
If
sure.
we sit back and we become, sorry for ourselves, and we're like, yo, this situation is bad, and that's all we're telling ourselves, then we're not going to get out of this thing. But once we start shifting our mindset in an optimism, from an optimism perspective, I
Yeah.
think that will help us, move faster from a recovery perspective.
It definitely can, dog. And I think one of the things, the reason why I put we Black Twitter is even part of this thing because for me it's a monster
Yeah,
that
what's
has
your
its
what's
ups
your
and
what's your
downs.
gripe with Black Twitter?
No, no gripe. I actually love Black Twitter, like
Okay.
for real. Simply because of what it represents, right? This is something that again one of the many things that the people have created, and it's sustainable. So much so that we now see brands and corporations considering Black Twitter in their boardrooms when they're coming up with proposals and concepts and pitches because Black Twitter is now a market, right? And
Unavoidable.
exactly, and a strong one at that, a very vocal one. And
Mm.
in essence, Black Twitter is the people. Black Twitter is the streets. Black Twitter is us. So
Yeah,
indirectly, we
I,
now
I,
have a voice in those spaces. It has its flaws. It has its many, many
yeah,
flaws.
I have my reservations about Black Twitter. Like, I believe
Listen,
Black Twitter can be both good and bad. Um,
for
I,
sure.
one thing that I don't like, and I want us to thread very carefully on, and I'm seeing more and more brands do that,
Yeah,
is more and more brands are starting to think Black Twitter is a representation of the majority.
and it's not
and
true.
and I don't believe in
Not
that,
true.
right?
Not
and
true.
and and Black Twitter also feels that way. Like when you're on
Yeah, yeah.
Black Twitter, you feel
It's
like,
like the only world that
you
exists.
guys are the status quo, you guys are
Yeah, yeah.
dictating,
No.
the norm. But um in that, we need to also be cognizant of, from a realistic perspective, if we look at the numbers, compared to other social networks, I think there's no debating which social network actually boasts the numbers, right?
But
but
yes,
but um, we also can't deny, in as much as, for example, Facebook has the numbers, when it comes to creating meaningful dialogue. I think Black Twitter is at the forefront of that, because Black Twitter
yes,
over the years has played a huge role in engaging society on
yeah,
critical issues. And I think that's the one aspect of Black Twitter that I appreciate so much, because, for example, I appreciate how Black Twitter attacks, or not attacks, but approaches the issue of sexual assault, for
yes,
example. It's been a contentious issue in society, but it's been one of those elephants in the room that no one is willing to deal with, because no one knows how to deal with it. So it's a cagey
yes.
situation, right? But the way in which Black Twitter has approached it is very head on. It's very on, so
Yeah,
unapologetically so. We need to address this. And I love that,
but
because it's creating
yes,
conversations around it, even amongst ourselves, because you see something what goes on the timeline, and then in your personal capacity, you then have your conversation with your friends, and you're like, yo, did you see what happened? Yo, they're ousting people, or whatever the case might be. And you're
that's
like, yo,
sparking.
now
Yeah,
it's creating the conversation. So in terms of creating meaningful conversations, I think Black Twitter has played a significant role over the past years, in the past couple of years. The one thing that I don't like, though, in the whole notion of Black Twitter, is that assumption that Black Twitter is a representation of the majority Black constituency, and I actually don't think it is a representation of majority of the Black constituency. And I think that's
true.
one conversation that needs to be had, and that's the gripe that I have with brands, when brands measure issues relating to Blackness, or Black community, or using Twitter as a matrix, right? And saying that, oh no, let's look at what's trending on Twitter,
It's not
and that's
saying
what
this
Black people want to do, right?
Yeah,
It's not
yeah.
necessarily the case.
But that's true. But then again, this is why the element of me that likes it is because if we're conscious of this, then we can use Black Twitter as an instrument, right?
Mm.
Because we're the people that create the content. We're on this thing, and we're the ones that are tweeting and putting out these messages and these words. So if we consciously walk into this thing and use it as an instrument that's going to benefit us in our agenda, whatever that may be for a specific cause, whether it's gender-based violence, whether it's supporting local businesses, bringing whoever. But if we
And
use it
and
as that, because
and
it's
let's be
very
frank,
loud.
bro. Black Twitter has helped a lot of people in their
Oh, for
personal
sure. Oh,
capacities,
for
in
sure.
businesses. It's helped mold, some sort of camaraderie
Yeah,
amongst us, and I love that about that.
100%.
So
Look,
that's
we
yeah.
looking at even we have influences now. Like that's one of the most beautiful things to me. Like we have whether IG or Twitter, whatever, but we have influences which now opened a new lane for income, right? That's a new revenue stream for now people that have found a niche and they found their skills on these apps. Again, we use these things as instruments to kind of move forward and bring these other corporations, whoever, to the party. Because with an influencer has a manager has blah, blah, blah. These are new
Yeah.
jobs that we unconsciously have now created outside of the traditional structures of government or business or whatever the case is. So I think it's important for us now, especially with this thing looming over us, to kind of look at these things that we've been doing as our daily routines and trying to see how we can capitalize them and use
I,
them as currency.
I think it's high time then the conversation shifts and gets into that. I think it's very important for us now to start looking at evaluating our values. I think that's, if there's one thing that COVID-19 has also, taught me, is that through the introspection, I'm starting to evaluate my value in terms of
Yes.
what I bring to the table. So even these platforms, how we use these platforms, I think we need to start looking at, yeah, sure, I have 20,000 followers on Twitter, right? And out of those 20,000 followers, I get great engagement, but
Yeah.
are you monetizing your platform? And
Mm.
not only that, I think another thing that we need to evaluate is we all always try to follow a similar blueprint, right? Yes, whilst you're
Yes.
saying that there's influencers now, but not all of us can be influencers. And by
100%.
virtue of me
100%.
having over 50,000 followers doesn't necessarily make me an influencer, and doesn't necessarily, mean that I understand the matrix of becoming an influencer and that I want to
Yes.
become an influencer. So we need to
Yes.
we need to start then creating value out of these tools. And I like you said, like, these things are tools at the end of the day, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, WhatsApp, whatever the case might be. We need to start seeing them as instruments that we can use in such a way that we adjust it to our personal strengths, so to say.
Yes.
I think one needs to be able to view themselves and view where they're going and what is
Yeah.
it that they're doing, and see how they can use these instruments to aid them in such a way that they can monetize what they're doing. You know,
Yeah.
so whilst there's a great deal of entertainment in these platforms, but I think now we're beyond that. I think we can be beyond that. Not to say that we need to stop
Oh,
the
yeah.
entertainment value, but we need
Yeah.
to now start
The hype
thinking
has
that,
died down.
yeah, like,
Yeah.
like, okay, cool. It's cool. You go into these apps every day. You're making these apps money, but
Yeah.
what is it in return for you after the
and
laughter?
and that's the key. That's the thing that I'm about, because you're right. Not all of us are influencers, but we kind of, I feel like we need to go into a space where even if you're not an influencer, you'd not necessarily shun or put down these influencers, whoever's monetizing or securing the bag with their way, but rather throw some support in that, because as a collective, as a community, if there's wealth and there's value here, then we bring more people into this circle, into this space. And when more attention is brought into the space, there are more opportunities. So you don't necessarily have to be an influencer. You don't necessarily
Yeah.
have to be
Look,
a celeb or whatever, you know?
what I'm saying, and what I'm urging is that we need to all know why we're using these platforms.
Yeah,
And there's various reasons, really,
yeah, for sure.
and we can't judge each other on that. So that, well, let me make an example for myself. I don't like speaking of other people. I know that with my social media platforms, I use them as a vessel to communicate, right? So that's
Yeah,
how I communicate messages. you know Beyond that, from time to time, I use them as a diary, because I don't own a diary. So
yeah.
if I want to share my thoughts in certain way, i'd
It's
rather
like a
I'd
soundboard.
either yeah I'd either post it on social media, or alternatively I'll write an article about it, right?
Yeah,
And post it on whatever platform. But for me, they're like more so a vessel of communicating and expressing myself creatively as a creative, right? So I am cognizant of the fact that there's things that I do that require me to communicate to an audience that I'm serving, right? So I have the
got you.
podcast, I have the radio station, I have the magazine that I'm doing. I'm also a corporate MC. I do this, I do that, right? So all these things require me to be able to communicate with my audience. So
Yeah,
I need to also understand the way in which I communicate with my audiences, because the audiences are different. On Twitter, it's different to Facebook and WhatsApp and IG. So
for
for
sure.
me, that's how I think of these social media platforms. But for someone else, it could be that they didn't even ask to have followers, right?
Yeah,
They People just
yeah,
find
yeah.
it interesting. So it does
Yes,
happen. And usually it's girls. Girls, it's easy for them to get followers. So you're a girl and you're just doing your thing, you're just living your life. Next thing you know, you have 100,000 followers. But what I'm encouraging and what I want us to start doing now is I need you to start sitting and evaluating on how can I monetize on that.
yeah,
And being an influencer is not the only way, because it might happen that you don't necessarily have the qualities of being an influencer, for one, and two, you might not be interested in becoming an influencer you
yeah.
know
True.
but then how do you then find and bridge the gap to say, yo, I can still monetize this and still use this? I'm learning now, the more and more I engage with brands through my work, I'm starting to realize that even with the issue of followers, I mean, I think we've been misled. I never
Yeah.
knew that. I always thought you judge an influencer based on following. And once you get deeper into it, especially the world of social media management, you start realizing that, yo, man, it's way beyond that. You'd
Yeah, it's bigger
find
than just
I've
face
seen
value.
I've seen when we're dealing with social media management companies and they're showing you the insight, right, on these numbers. And they show
Mm.
you some crazy statistics on a guy who has 500 followers on Twitter having way more engagement than your favorite celebrity, and you're
Yeah,
like, damn, okay. And and and
and
then we can
that's
show you the
currency.
matrix of measuring influence, right? So you say, like, so you might have 100,000 followers, and you say to these 100,000 followers, yo, go buy Destiny Careers. Destiny
Mm.
Careers. Yo, not even you saying blatantly go buy Destiny Careers. You just saying that, yo, I actually enjoy reading Destiny Careers. After you say that, how many people actually go on to try out Destiny Careers and check it out because of what you
Yeah,
say? That's influence, right?
yeah,
Because it
that's
means
true.
people hold your opinion of such value that they're
This
influenced
through
somehow
your
by
premium.
it, right?
Yeah,
And that's a difficult thing to measure too, right? From a thing. So
yeah,
that's what I'm saying. It's just interesting when you delve deeper into these concepts, and they challenge us to start thinking differently. So that's why I'm
yeah.
saying that we need to start introspecting, and start carving our own lanes, because
Yeah.
that's how lanes are discovered. You know,
And
yes,
there's a
let's
lot more
let's
to cover with this thing too. I think that's also like something that we should all remember. It doesn't end with influences or whatnot. Like in a couple of years ago, that was a non-existent career. This is new.
facts,
There's so
facts.
many other new things that we haven't discovered that we can mine from this thing. We just have to, as you say,
Exactly.
we just have to apply. Okay, shit. What else can I do with this thing? Because it's essentially it's a tool, and if you
Yeah.
don't well, then it doesn't maximize or yield results. So you kind of, okay, shit, I've got this. Let me try this. Let me explore this. What can I do with this thing? Until you find your niche and you start killing it. So I think now is the time for us to exactly what it is. Okay, this is what I have. What can I do with it? Play around with it. I mean, it doesn't hurt. You never know what you could discover, what comes out of that shit. And it's like, oh, okay, you stumble to an onto something new, and you pioneer that, and we keep moving the culture forward like that way, you know.
Mm. I see
So I
Toby here saying lockdown has exposed influence. Having gang followers but zero engagement is exposing.
and
That
that
is
engagement
facts.
is key. That engagement is key, you know. Like you say a
Yeah.
lot of shit, but what does it matter? Like we know you for talking shit, so we don't even take you seriously. That's not what you want, you
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
But I
I
think
think
I think as a nation, I don't know where that comes from, but I think I'm also guilty of it. We just have a tendency of wanting to explore an avenue of which we saw someone succeed in,
yeah,
right? So if someone carves a new lane and says, like, yo, I've like, I'm doing this. Let me make an example. So AKA now launched AKA TV, right, today.
yeah, yeah. So that
So now he does that. Everyone is watching and waiting to see if that thing is going to succeed or not. And as soon as that thing succeeds, we're going to start seeing a couple more blueprints of that. Like, a
yeah,
couple people are
people
going to
emulate
start
the end result.
emulating
Yeah,
that
for
sort
sure.
of thing. And in fact, out of those emulating that, there's a couple who are going to be more successful than him at doing it, right? Even though he
Yeah,
maybe paved the way for the ones that are coming after. But
for
then
sure.
we have this problem as South Africans to then saturate the market and start doing, all of us start doing that thing.
The
Same way now I'm
township does
seeing
it.
that
The township
all
does
of us,
that brilliantly.
yeah, all of us are influencers. All of us are even radio. All of us are presenters.
Yeah.
All of us are, you know, everything. Basically, photographers. I don't know how many photographers I have on my timeline now.
I
Like,
know.
everyone who has
I
a
know.
camera is a photographer. And
Come
and
on.
actually, let's talk about this, because I'm not knocking that down, by the way, by any means. I'm not knocking that. So I just wanted to have a frank conversation about, then, where do we draw the line? Because earlier on, I was encouraging us to find multiple streams of income, right? And
Yeah.
multiple ways in which we can diversify our incomes and interests, right? So let's say hypothetically, as Nkox, my personality is very competitive and I adapt very well and I learn very quickly. So then I see this new challenge and I'm like, hey, if I were to buy myself a camera and I study this thing and I learn the industry, I might just actually be very good at that, right? So
Yeah.
then um, what if then that's the case, right, with most people, that it's a matter of people trying to diversify their interests, their skills, and also their incomes. But then also there's that risk because people who are in that field, who started with that field, who are passionate about that field,
Yeah.
always find a way to be offended by that. You know, to say, yeah, these fake people are infiltrating our industry, you know,
And
like,
that's
you know,
everywhere.
it's everywhere, every industry now. Like there's no rules to
Oh
this
yeah.
thing. There's
Oh
no
yeah.
rules anymore. Any industry is at that. Like anyone can do anything right now. I can
Which I think
literally,
is beautiful. I
yeah,
really think I
yeah.
really no, only if it works right though, because I feel like, as you know, I don't like the saturation of any industry as well, because there's like a
Okay,
gang people. You see them coming in, you're like, you have no business doing this. You really shouldn't be here. But whatever, you
yeah.
take the crooked with it. However, every now and then, a diamond
But
emerges from those instances.
but
It's like, oh
Ndie,
shit,
let me put it this way, because I think our socioeconomic issues have somewhat something to do with this, right?
oh yeah,
If you've never been on radio before in your life, right?
got you,
But then you gain clout off of your podcasts that you do on Instagram, like this one, right?
got you.
And you become very big and you have a huge following. And then
Yeah,
by virtue of you pursuing this podcast, you then get to meet people who are decision makers. And in one
uh-huh.
of those, engagements that you're having with them over golf or whatever the case might be, these guys offer you a gig, a radio gig, and they say, hey man, like I see you have a lot of followers. Like, have you thought about doing radio?
That happens a lot too.
Are you gonna say no to that? Like for the sake of creating, for the sake of maintaining the integrity of that industry, because you've never been in that industry and you basically don't know anything about that industry. There's no way, bro.
No, no, you're gonna take it, but again, then I loop this back to our original points about, as from the ground up, us building a power base. Because no matter what the influencers and the decision makers may say, like we can take Nkox and put him on Metro, right? If the
Okay.
people on the media are not fucking with Nkox, you can put them on Drive. We're just not listening to Nkox. It's not gonna fly. And the decision
Yeah.
makers in the building can't ignore the Rams and those numbers of, oh,
Yeah.
Nkox, but he's not bringing in what we expected him to bring in. So
Yeah.
let's switch him out. So again, I think we should never put too much power on the corporates and the execs, because they essentially follow the beat of what the people on the ground are saying.
But then
So my
here's a
folks,
question. Here's a question I have for you with that. I'm glad you said that, right? Then the question is, who are the taste makers? What you just said to me is that
yeah,
the corporates, right,
yeah,
are looking at what's going on the ground and they're
yes,
saying this is what the people want. So let's follow that, right? Because we're
okay,
trying to make money, right?
okay,
But then I have a fundamental problem with that because it means
okay,
then the status quo will forever be created by the masses on the ground. But then in a situation where you have a pluralist country such as South Africa, with a
okay,
diversification of ethnicities
yeah,
coexisting, right? You can't really pinpoint what the masses want. And
yes, partially
and
true. Okay,
as the one at the top, I feel like you have a responsibility to be the one that's carving what's next. By
yeah,
virtue of you being there at the top and at that level and having a platform that big, right?
yes,
You need to find what's next and not look at the masses to say, yo, what is next?
and
Because ultimately, the status quo
that's
will just remain.
That's key. But again, that's true. But what informs your decision as an exec as well is you also have a pulse or your finger on the pulse on what's happening in real life. So
Okay, cool.
as much as the people may be saying da 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 da. You as a pioneer in your decision in your execution of okay, this is where we got to go. This is the next frontier. The consideration of what is happening on the ground, what the people are saying, is already in your mind. So you take what the people's truth and the people's experiences into consideration, right? So you don't just
Okay.
blindly, okay, this is what I want to do next. Forget what you guys, you know what I mean? You
You don't take
gauge
the
your
you don't take the extreme
no,
Lil Wayne approach of not listening to anyone but
nah.
myself.
Nah, you gauge your environment. Okay, shit. This is okay. Since we like Instagram, okay, what's the next thing?
Yeah.
I'm gonna create this blase black as a pioneer, and then I'm gonna put this out, and then the people connect with it because this is in line with where they were going in the initial place. So I think it's that balance where we avoid what that example you were saying of just
But
oh, Nkox has
it's
got a large number of followers. Let's take them and put them on air. You know?
but let's be frank, in the South African context, it's very difficult to become a pioneer because there's always reluctance in the beginning from a
Yes.
support perspective. In South Africa, we always look at who you are and what you've done
Problem
before we
number one.
give you a chance, right? So we'll say, who's this guy? What has he done? Why must I join his live,
Yes.
right? But
Yes.
I'll
As
never
opposed to
generally.
this life was actually fire.
Yeah. You know,
Very true.
and
Very true.
sometimes it's almost as if I've seen people that would tell me, um, yo, I saw something on the timeline and that thing is fire. That thing is dope, right? And I say, but then why didn't you say on the timeline? I could have then seen your tweet too, saying, yo, this is dope, whatever. But you're telling me in person, right?
Yeah.
And part of the reason is that that person was waiting for someone else to
Put
say
it
that
out
is
and
dope,
then
and then
yeah.
that would affirm them saying, okay, oh,
I
actually,
hate
it is
that shit.
dope.
I hate that shit. I hate that
Right?
shit.
So you know, actually, it is dope, right?
And
But
that pulls us
but
back. That really, really pulls us back.
yeah, so all of us are always waiting. No one wants to be the first. So no one wants to be the
Yes.
first to compliment. No one wants to be the first to consume. No one wants to be the first for anything. So we're always like waiting on the side to say, let me wait for someone that maybe I respect their opinion or anything of that sort. That is like a cultural figure
Yeah.
to say this thing is dope, to give it a cosign of some sort, or to give this guy some kind of a cosign in order for me to acknowledge this guy is dope, right?
Yes.
I've seen this with me personally, right? I've worked with people um, whom I've worked with them for a very long time, but then you start hearing them acknowledging your dopeness once other people that are new to your dopeness
Oh yeah.
start saying, yo, this guy's dope. And then
Never
they
been
then
on it.
say, yeah, no, actually, you are dope. You
Imagine that
understand?
shit.
You
That's
understand how that works?
that's yeah.
And
And it's a crippling thing because it's all over our industry specifically with the entertainment now. And this is why you get the recycling of faces and talent because it's just easier to sell Nkox because we've seen you on the cover of Destiny Careers. So I'm gonna take
yep,
you and then I'm gonna put you on the show and then I'm gonna put because you're an easier sell. It's it's a cheaper investment and a quicker return for me. Whereas I could simply take Mang Mang who has 10 times more talent than you, but is so shit, that person is, it's going to take a lot more from my end to put him out. So let's just go with Nkox because Nkox is blah, blah, blah. And you might find like your talent is not even halfway the other person's. So we just recycle the same shit. And as a result, then we don't really pioneer or move forward in any way. We kind of stay stagnant and we normalize the mediocrity. So now we start, oh, record breaking. Oh, this is, yeah, you can break
but
records in a mediocrity, bro. Like, what the fuck? Like,
in
and
that
this
same
shit
breath,
gets me.
in that same breath, Ndie, let's not talk down on the talentless because I know guys who might not necessarily have the talent, but they're doing way more than the guys that have the talent, and that's what
Yeah,
separates them, and that's what put them where they are. Right?
the work
I look
ethic.
at I look at my industry, which is like radio, for example, and I look at the people that are some at the top, and some I will agree, like I know I'm better than them, right? Like say you
Yeah,
can put me toe to toe to them, I'm better than them, but I'm always cognizant of the fact that there's certain areas of which they've put in so much work and then by virtue of them putting in so much work, they deserve the spot. You understand?
Okay.
They
I
might
hear
not
you.
have they might not have started in the industry like me from a ground up. They caught on at the top, right? But the work that they've done elsewhere, commands them enough respect to actually get to that position. And
I hear
not
you.
only that, there's people that you can respect by virtue of, let's say they're not necessarily from that industry, but once they get into the industry, they actually start learning a bit more to ensure that they perfect their craft, and they get the
Yeah,
respect from the people in that industry.
I
So
got you.
so there are people that are talented and that heavily rely on the talent. And it's not to say that your talent will get you there. You know, if you've been watching the Last Dance, Michael
Yeah,
Jordan. And I think that's a
yeah,
perfect example of that. With the Michael Jordan story actually, gives you a perfect indication of what happens when the talent meets the hard work type of thing, which is a cliche that we've always known. All of us has known
yes.
this. It's not
But
something new.
that's it raises the truth.
Yeah,
You know?
so there's a lot of groundwork that still needs to be done beyond you being talented. And your talent is not necessarily, virtue. And by that I
Yeah,
mean, by virtue of you being talented, you're not entitled to anything, to be honest with you.
absolutely.
You can be dope. It doesn't mean, Cox, you deserve to be on Metro FM. No.
Nah, no.
You
You can be
understand?
talented, but I could have a work ethic that just shits on yours. And
Yeah,
I'm telling you now, I'm going 10 times further than you. It's not even a
exactly.
question.
Exactly.
I get, I mean, Will Smith is on record saying it 100 million times. He's the same thing. The talent is minimal, but the work ethic and the work that you put in perfecting and growing and improving in your
And
craft,
even
that's
the work
key.
ethic, there's 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 little emphasis that's put on the amount of work that goes into your network, and your
Yeah,
network fast
yeah,
tracks your growth.
yeah.
That has been
Yes,
proven. It's a
true.
fact, right?
This is true.
But
This is true.
getting that network and getting into the right spaces at the right time, trust me, that's an art in its own. You don't
It's a
just get there. So you better put some respect on certain people who actually
Swag
have
says,
some kind of a network.
yeah, the creative industry's biggest conundrum lies in there being low barriers to entry, even with a high risk of failure. That's true. I
Facts,
see that. That's true. That's true.
facts,
So let me
facts.
take it, since we're kind of in this space. I want to look at the artists, and I don't like the word celebrities, but whatever, artists forward slash celebrities. I have my own views. Do you think
Okay.
they come into the party in moving, I'm going to use the word culture forward,
Uh,
considering where we are now under this, the pandemic, but then beyond that as
are we
well?
talking in the South African context?
We have to, man. Like,
Okay.
yeah.
Oh no, no. I think in the South African context, I think our stars slash celebrities or artists, whatever you want to call them, I think they were caught off guard and they haven't recovered since. I haven't seen anything innovative. I haven't seen, and
Come.
also let's not apply pressure, I guess, because not all of us are as creative, to or respond very well to pressure in this regard. But I think our stars were caught napping, and I think they were quite reactive, and they haven't taken a proactive stance. I will give some props to creatives such as who's that Goliath dude? Was
Oh,
it
yeah,
Donovan?
yeah.
I think Donovan Goliath. Um, you know, he's doing some pretty cool stuff that is
Okay.
relatable
Yeah.
content on a day to day, and it speaks to what is going on now.
I
And
feel you.
which is pretty cool also, based on the content that he was creating for fun, because he's a creative and he's at home and he's like, yo, let me use what I have. He's
Yeah.
starting to get brands, because I saw two brands have now endorsed him and his and
Yeah.
his girlfriend or wife, I'm not sure, um, for the content that they've been creating over there. So that for me was pretty dope, and that was clever. I
Yeah.
saw Gemini Major and Tweezy started the verses that Swiss Beats and Timbaland are doing
Susan
that
and
side,
oh, yes.
which is
Go ahead.
cool, but like it's also lazy,
It,
because you're just taking something as is and you're just
it's
relaying
it's a
it.
spin.
It's a
It's a
spin-off,
spin-off.
right?
Yeah.
And I don't have a problem with spin-offs, but I always have a problem if you take it as is. I would rather be inspired by a spin-off and do it South African,
Make
localize
it
it,
make it dope.
make it appealing to the forces on the ground, you know?
I,
So
yeah.
I think our stars have been caught napping. In fact, all of us have been caught napping. I don't think that there's been much innovation in terms
You
of how we consume stuff and how
yeah.
we produce content or anything. We haven't showcased our abilities to think beyond our circumstances. Let me put
I
it that
think
way.
I think we've been napping in terms, especially in terms of in terms of the artists, and this is no jab to any one
Mm,
person. I think we've been. I think
that's that's true.
as a country,
When you look at the state of our TV, for example, I
garbage,
think yeah, I think
garbage.
it,
I
it,
think
it speaks
we've
to
been
that.
consistently being served mediocrity to the point that it's now the norm. It's now okay. Like our
Is it
good,
Let me
this
play
it's
devil's advocate. Let me play devil's advocate. Is it fair though? Because I think in us saying mediocrity, our comparison immediately hits Hollywood and the likes, right?
as it
In
should, as it
in
should.
comparison, right? Is it fair
Yes.
though, looking at how young our democracy is and looking at the pillars that are available to produce content at that level?
Yeah, yes. And here's why. We've been with the guys back and forth. Like there's certain things that we cannot escape. First of all, we're not looking at scale, right? We're not saying the music industry or the TV and film industry in SA should be competing with Hollywood and whatever in terms of scale, instead of numbers, instead of box office numbers. We're not going to do that. Not overnight, anyway. The market is far too small. It's not apples and oranges. However, there are certain things that don't necessarily need scale or financial resources, so to speak, for us to actually connect with the audience and actually move culture. So I'll take an example with you take America now, the shooting of Ahmaud Aubrey, right? This couple of days ago. I saw that from hip hop acts. The first connection I had to the story was through rappers and musicians and actors and comedians and blah 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 before I heard it on the news or anything. And
Mm.
the reaction that the artists have taken is, and this is consistently, they've been doing this for a while now. It's not just sharing the story, but taking proactive actions to kind of combat the issues. Like, yo, we need
Social
Senator Mangman.
commentary,
Yeah, we
acting.
need
Yeah.
this senator to resign because he's not acting. We need this person to
Do
be
you think our
endorsed because
celebrities are mum when it comes to social commenting on social issues?
absolutely. This is what I'm saying. We've been napping because even outside of COVID, they haven't been serving us, the people, right? I don't feel represented. I don't feel looked out for.
But maybe
And
they also feel like there's not much support in that regard because our celebrities in South Africa always complain about being overly criticized when they try to do things or not being supported. You know, there's always
nah,
various
nah.
issues in that
I hear
regard.
that, but I feel like you gotta earn the support of the people, right? Because you
Mm,
went out and said, I'm gonna rap. I'm gonna rap for my city, for my province, for my country. I'm gonna rep you guys, right? You
mm,
proactively went out for that. And
mm.
so when you go into that space, you gotta assume the responsibility of representing and serving those people. So you can't then say, I'm gonna rep you guys, but then you guys gotta support me first. Now you got to earn that credibility, and then the people respond. I mean, for instance, if we look at the marriage between SA entertainment industry and politics and government is disturbing. Nothing
Mm.
unsettles me more than that. I don't understand, and I'm never comfortable with how close our entertainers are with our politicians, all
You
willy
rate,
nilly
you
with it.
rate, you rate our entertainers are close to politicians in South Africa. I feel like
Look around.
everyone who's an entertainer in South Africa plays a very neutral role. They
Look
never
around.
one pledge allegiance to any political party, um, and they always
Uh,
play it safe. You never really, even when it comes to social or political ideology, sorry, you
yeah.
never really get a sense of where our celebrities are leaning towards. I mean, if I were to ask you now, what do you think Bonang believes in ideologically from a political standpoint? You probably
What?
don't know because she doesn't express it.
But no, no. But here's what I'm saying. they are easy and quickly to get into affiliation for whatever term, for whatever project that is being on the table.
Yeah, it's
By that,
business.
I'm saying, and that's the issue. And I'm cool with that. That is business. But however, as an artist, there comes a point where there's a social responsibility that you have to fulfill. And I'm not saying let's not do
But
business with.
let's
I'm
talk
not. No,
about
no.
that though. Let's talk
I'm
about that
not
because
saying
this,
let's not partner with these people. However, I'm saying let's not overlook the issues that people are actually going through, that the country is actually going through in the name of it's just a concert, it's just a performance. This is the same thing that happened when Donald Trump was in office, right? Like every major
yeah.
celebrity was like, I'm not performing at the inauguration. It's just not
Yeah,
going
I
to happen.
remember. And then they killed Chrisette Michelle's
For
career for
taking that,
performing.
yeah,
Yeah.
because
Like
in
is it
that situation
are
was
you
no,
but cancel culture doesn't work in South Africa, especially when it comes
no,
to celebrities,
I
because
don't like
people
cancel.
people still didn't cancel Black Coffee when he performed in Israel when
Yes,
all of
that's
that was
true.
going on. You know,
But
he's but let me I want to speak to that point that you were saying with the responsibility that comes with the platform and your
got you.
status in society. Um, can you, as an individual, decide not to become a role model, or is it inextricably linked to the position by virtue of you having that social status? Because I'm alluding to what you just said, and I just thought of it now in when I was watching The Last Dance, and there's something in
Yeah.
the previous episode that Michael Jordan said when he was being criticized, in his
Oh yeah,
career, that period. And then he
about not
said, like,
taking that
but I
stance.
didn't ask for that. Like, I didn't ask to be a role model. I just
Even
wanted to play
Republicans,
basketball. Yeah, I just wanted to play basketball. And then now I'm being criticized for my gambling hobby,
that
you know?
that's true.
Yeah,
And I
could it be the case
saying that,
now that as South African celebrities, most of them maybe don't want that responsibility of playing, social commentary, for example, on critical issues, or taking a social stance? Because sometimes if I truly believe in something, I'd have to act on it. So if, for example, EFF is running a rally, right, and I have declared publicly that I actually, I'm with the ANC ideology as a celebrity. So now I'm
yeah.
not taking the EFF check in solidarity with what I
Yes,
believe in,
I
and in
hear
South
you.
Africa, that's a tricky thing because, hey man, the market is too
Pe-
small financially,
People
bro.
think we think with our stomachs. We think with our stomachs. And so it's every saying, not everyone wants to assume social responsibility. And that's fair. That
Yeah.
is fair, bro. I'm not saying everyone should be cornered into doing this thing. However, I'm saying if I am an audience, right, I'm a fan of whatever. I listen to music, but my economic position is not so great. I don't have proper sanitation in my community, whatever my issues may be. And you are a musician, blah, 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 blah. And you do your thing. You're actually doing shows, you selling tickets and da 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 da. If you can easily say, "Ndie, I'm not trying to be a role model, like to you, I never asked to be a role model. You don't want to take a responsibility for my lifestyle or my condition, and that's fine. However, it becomes an issue when you then turn around and complain to me that I don't support you, that I don't have your back, or start going on
Mm.
campaign support local artists, come on bigger stuff instead of international artists, but you're not reciprocating that. So I'm saying
Mm.
it's cool. You don't assume the responsibility. It's fine, dog. It's your choice. However, when the people then don't support you, let's not then make it an issue about open up the industry or support local, because it's not what you're doing, right? So as an entertainer, as a person in the spotlight, there's a responsibility. You got to lead, and people follow your lead. If you take care of your people, the people take care of you. If you don't, then they won't. It's just the natural order of things. So I feel like a large number of our artists are in that same thing where and it's not even financial, right? As an artist, I think one of your main currencies is influence and impact.
That's
The
true,
reasons why brands affiliate with artists is not because they have money, it's
dude.
because they have
Uh,
access,
and to
you
to
know?
that point, it's because of let me use Zola 7 for an example. Zola was down and out, bro. He was out. Like his
For
career was
sure.
considered over, but because of his acts socially and the
Yeah,
amount of influence he had within his core audience found a
exactly.
way to bring him back by pressurizing,
They wouldn't let
media.
him die.
Yeah, they pressurized media into letting Zola back into the game to say like, yo,
For sure.
why is Zola suffering? Yo, this guy helped a lot of people. He needs to be
For
back in
sure.
the forefront of things. So I get your point in that regard that it comes full circle ultimately because you
Yeah.
when you then honor when you take care of the social issues, it does somewhat reflect back to you also financially to a certain
Okay,
extent.
Doc. We've got 10 seconds. Do we continue or you want to wrap it?
I think we can wrap it because it's